The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, I am so excited, and I'm also very, very grateful that my guest, this is the third attempt to get her on my show. The first attempt, there was hurricane, came the first hurricane. The second attempt, the next hurricane. And now she's here, and I'm so excited. So let me pull her up. Hello, Dr. Cynthia. How are you?
Well, I'm good, and I have officially unsubscribed from the Hurricane of the Week Club. So we're done with that.
Yes, we're done with that. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that you're safe and that no hurt, harm, or danger came to you physically. I know there was a
Correct.
lot of
Yeah.
things
Damage.
happening,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I'm so sorry for all the damage, but I thank God that you are well. So let me start by sharing a little bit about Dr. Cynthia Howard. Beginning as a registered nurse, she worked in critical care in life and death situations. During this 10-year adventure, her question was, how does a nurse or a physician define success? Can you be successful even if the patient dies? This led to her pursuit of a PhD to study what success is and how to achieve it in pressure and uncertainty. Success is not a destination, but rather a mindset defined by those everyday choices. These choices are governed by how we think about how we think about ourselves and the problems. To get to your next level, it's time to think differently. And we're going to talk about thinking differently. But before we
Absolutely.
do, I am going to give you the floor and ask you to just kind of share a little bit about your journey and how you begin to walk in your purpose and your passion.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And it's great to be able to be here with someone like yourself who is walking in purpose and is so passionate about what you do. And I've come to realize that it is our purpose that keeps our heart open. So, like with the hurricanes, for example, you go through situations like that. It's easy to get into fear. It's easy to get into anger. It's easy to slip into even despair and disappointment. And those are what I call the fatal emotions that just take you down into a hole, and it robs you of a sense of hope about what's next. And people often then give up. And so early on in my career as a nurse, I was in critical care, and, I worked in inner cities. So there was a lot of gunshot wounds. There were young people, they were stabbed, they had been shot, and gang wars and all the other things that happened in gang type situations. And so we had a lot of that life and death situation. And as a nurse, you're just going, you're trying to stop the bleeding, keep the heart beating, make sure the airway's going. But then I became aware of how that's impacting the rest of us, other nurses, other physicians. And despite the incredible education that nurses and doctors had, we were not taking care of ourselves. So there was a lot of burnout. There was a lot of cynicism that happened. People stopped caring. And what I found, this was actually when I did my own research, when I was in my doctoral program, one of the things that I studied was that burnout is not caused by all of the stress, but it's caused by how you think about all of that stress. So when people, meaning nurses and other doctors, other healthcare professionals, when they stopped caring about what they were doing, that's when they became subjected to burnout. And that happens when you lose your ability to focus on what's most important. And very often there's a spiritual element there. God lit a spark in each one of us when we were born. And that's that little light, let your light shine, that says, keep going. And when you lose track of that, then people can, go down that road. They don't care anymore. They become cynical. Your heart shuts down. And that's when you don't realize you can still make a difference. And I think, so that's actually what I went in to study, along with what success means, because in critical care, a lot of people were dying, or they ended up with really bad outcomes. They had wounds that took months to heal, or they had injuries that were going to take a long time to heal. And so it was hard to figure out, how do you know you've been successful? And that was part of what I went in there to study.
Well, let me ask you, in so doing, what answer did you get for that question?
Well, it really did relate to the ability to care. How do you continue to live out your purpose, even when it doesn't look like all around you things are quote unquote working out? So most healthcare professionals went into it because they wanted to make a difference. They wanted to help somebody. So helping somebody doesn't have to mean I help them live. It could mean that you help them in this moment deal with this one issue. And so you look at small things. And I actually think if we can focus on the small things, then at the end of our day, we have a really good day. Because in the course of a day, in fact, that's actually one of my other books. It's called 3 Seconds to Impact. One moment is 3 seconds. 3 seconds. So we have a lot of moments in our day. And if we're preoccupied about what's going to happen next, or if we're obsessed about what happened in the past, then we lose out on all this. And the person that we're interacting with is lost in our distracted thoughts. And we miss maybe that moment where we help them have a little bit of pain relief, or we took away some of their fear, or we helped a family member connect with them, in some small way. You just have to look at it step by step. So the success is defined differently than it is maybe in the business world, which looks at profit and loss, revenue generation, how much money am I making? And very often as individuals, we start to define ourselves by that. Like, how big is my house? How big is my car? Like, I'll never forget when I was a nurse, I bought a house in the inner city. I was living in Baltimore, and it was one of those row houses. And I was so excited because I bought my first house. And the physician said to me, my car costs more than your house. And I remember being really deflated. And then I thought, this is a relative statement. That was my first house. That was a big deal. Now I sold it for a profit. Now I bet he didn't sell his car for a profit because he
Nope.
lost money as soon as he rolled off the parking lot. But
Yes.
anyway, the point is that's when I started to understand that perspective and mindset is key and crucial. And so that goes into also how you define success, because success for me was buying that house.
Yes.
Success for him was buying his car. Okay.
Yes.
But we can't compare ourselves to each other because that's like a mind game. That will get you down in no time flat.
Exactly. And every time we compare ourselves, we're the ones that fall short because we're seeing what they have without looking at and being appreciative for what we do have. And so kudos for buying that first house.
Absolutely.
I know what it feels like when you do that, and so okay, so looking at success, like you said, it's relative, and so we need to stop comparing ourselves with others. Now I know, tell me a little bit more about the journey, how you ended up going from a nurse, and what were your next steps? Can you just kind of share?
Oh, sure. And Vera, I know your audience, you said, was mainly parents and children. And so the whole focus of having, for parents to not compare their kids to each other, and teach them to not compare themselves to their peers, because when kids are little, their peers are everything to them. I mean, outside of their parents, they want to be, in that peer group, and they want to be important, and they want to have that sense of power that comes from being accepted. And I think it's super important to help children understand that they have unique strengths.
Yes.
And they may be different, and
Yes.
so, when I grew up, I had very difficult childhood. There was a lot of abuse in that situation. And the only reason I share that now is you do get beyond it when you decide to get beyond it. So part of me going into nursing was, it was the easiest way I could get out of the house and make some money, and I could afford the education. So in a couple of years, 3 years, I was out, I was making money, and I just started working. And because I was wanting to define myself differently than what I grew up believing. And what I learned, and I'll share how I eventually got into that PhD program, but what I learned when I did do that was that everything we think about ourselves is formed by the time we are 5 years old. So a child's self-esteem, self-image is formed before they even can use words to describe themselves. So that's why sometimes people go through these cycles of self-sabotage, and they keep going back with the same person. They're getting in these tough relationships. They're doing the same thing over and over again because that little child is still dictating and driving their everyday choices, but they don't realize it because it's so deep.
Yes, it is deep, and you really have to do a lot of work on yourself to get past it, and also understand other people don't define you. But as children, we don't know that. We believe what we hear. And so when we've been told all these negative things and shown all kinds of negative things, we believe it because that's all we know.
Right. And so what I would tell people is, we treat ourselves the way we were treated. So if we were treated poorly, we're going to treat ourselves poorly. And so I had to learn that if I didn't get something growing up, I had to start giving it to myself. So early on in my 20s, I realized, I didn't really have any parents. They were off doing their own thing. There was alcohol abuse. There was all kinds of stuff going on there, and they were struggling, so I had to stop thinking about them and thinking about, okay, what could I have gotten if I had better parents? And then I started to give it to myself. And that's when I did learn about, financial, intelligence, so to speak. And I learned
Yes.
that making certain investments is better than spending money all the time. And I learned that I do have a future and I get to define it this time. It's not, I don't have to just run away from something. I can run toward it.
Yes.
So I worked as a nurse for a while, and I actually got laid off, which I never thought I would be laid off.
As a nurse, who would think
I
it,
know.
right?
And I couldn't get a job because at that point I had a master's degree. They weren't hiring. They were only hiring new grads. Hospitals were hurting for money, so they didn't want to pay me that. Anyway, the long story short, I ended up starting my own business. Well, before I did, when I got laid off, I was so scared. I literally got in my bed and I did not leave my bed for 3 days. I was like, I was visualizing, I'm homeless. I'm losing my house. I'm losing this. And finally, after 3 days, I'm like, what are you doing? And that's when I started really understanding that what we think about, we bring about.
Yeah, I love it. Let me put that in the chat. And you were going through stages of grief.
Yeah, well, that too, grief, there was loss, but I didn't have time for that. I had to make money because there was no one I could go to say, pay my rent. I couldn't get unemployment because they said, you're a nurse, you should be able to get a job. Anyway, and I actually think it was God's redemptive plan to force me into a place where I recognized where my strengths were. And one of my strengths, it's not a very glamorous strength, but I work hard. I'm a hard worker and I have persistence, and I recognize that. And I'm like, okay, you can do this. And so I called up different people, bosses that I had, and I actually became a consultant for performance improvement hospital, and they hired me. So in 6 months, I had income. I'm like, oh, this is good. I can do this. And then I decided that I was going to go back and get my PhD because I thought with the PhD, I would have more credibility as a consultant. But what ended up happening was, those early childhood experiences have to be dealt with because they will deal with you if you do not deal with them.
Yeah.
And so they will affect your relationships. They will affect your confidence, your ability to get new jobs and to stay in jobs. So if you've had previous trauma, deal with it and face it, confront those elephants, as I say, because you need to change how you see yourself. You need to rewrite your story.
Yeah.
You have to see yourself as capable and confident. And, at that point, I had been saved and I had a faith, but I wasn't necessarily living it. And I started living it more deliberately, realizing that, God's plans for us are to prosper us and to bring us to an expected end. They're not to just leave us hanging out there bumbling and fumbling. So there are resources available for people. There's church resources, there's the Bible. You can get a lot of things online, but I do highly recommend working with a counselor so that you can deal with the grief, the trauma, and to start to see your future self, because I realize that how we see ourselves is the most important thing. It's more
Yeah.
important than the money we make. It's more important than the education we have, because none of those things are real. But if we see ourselves as failure, it doesn't matter how much money we have.
No, it doesn't.
But if we see ourselves as successful, it doesn't matter how much money you
No,
have,
it
because you're
doesn't.
going to be successful. You're going to go find a way, because it's not money or
Right.
status that gives you the edge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of a television commercial where this little girl, she was bald. This was a St. Jude commercial, and she was sick and she had lost her leg. She was
Oh my
bald
goodness.
and she looked in the camera with the biggest smile and
Oh.
she said, attitude is everything.
Oh, you just have to love it. It's so real. I mean, that is so authentic. That little girl truly had that joy that you were talking about
Yes,
earlier.
yes, yes. And, I shared that today with the group that I was working with. It's our attitude and our mindset that determines everything. And just because we were raised a certain way does not mean that we have to wallow in that. We need to
Or
put
live
it
it
behind
out.
or
Mhm.
live right or live it out. And so this is good stuff. I am going to play a commercial and then we'll come back and continue this conversation. So let me play this right quick.
Hallelujah.
Hey there, Jason McNamara here, and I'm about to drop something truly game-changing your way. Are you tired of the same old 9-to-5 grind, feeling stuck in obtaining the life you deserve and craving something more? Well, listen up, because I've got something you will not want to miss. Introducing the No More 9-to-5 Club Professional Membership, your ticket to freedom and success in the entrepreneurial world. With our professional membership, you'll get access to weekly coaching sessions, pre-recorded trainings, and a vibrant community of fellow game changers. You get access to technology that will allow you to automate passive income streams, as well as unlock all of our expert-led trainings in the back office so you know where to go for good advice when you need it. You will also use the club to build up a residual income stream with a 2-tier 33% affiliate commission unlocked at this level, allowing you to help people help themselves while generating a residual passive income stream for yourself. And here's the kicker. For a limited time, you can unlock all of this just for a $1.11 donation to our club foundation.
I like this one.
Your first month is on us. So what's holding you back? Click the link below, make your donation, and let's start building the life and business of your dreams together. Here at the No More 9-to-5 Club, we're all about turning dreams into reality and smashing through those glass ceilings.
That's what I'm talking about, Jake.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, we've got the tools and support you need to thrive and evolve. And don't forget to sign up for our bootcamp training. It's the perfect way to kickstart your journey and unlock even more perks. So what are you waiting for? Join the No More 9-to-5 Club today and let's make those dreams a reality. I can't wait to see you on the inside. You only get one now. Invest it in your better future. Let's make magic happen together.
No more 9 to 5. Let me tell you, this club will really strengthen you and give you an opportunity to check out your mindset. There are mastermind trainings. There's networking with people from all over the world. There's an opportunity to even look at residual income and what you can do to have multiple streams of income. And it's an opportunity for you to live out your dreams and your passions. It's an opportunity if you do work a 9 to 5. It's an opportunity for you to come and feel the energy of those that are working and walking in their purpose and their passion to help ignite that in you. So check out No More 9 to 5. And you can join for the first month for $1.11. Come on now. $1.11. And within that time frame, you'll get a chance to experience what the club is all about. So And they also support veterans. So go to bit.ly/no more, the number 9, the number 2, the number 5, VT, and check it out. All right, no more 9 to 5. Okay, now
And
back
well,
to
just and you know what they say, you have to surround yourself with other people who are ambitious, who want to do something more in their life rather than just complaining and griping about what's happening. So those kinds of groups are always good to uplift people and help them think differently.
absolutely, absolutely. And I know that you were telling me earlier before the show that you also, right after you got your PhD, you want to share that experience and what it was that you were doing.
Oh, sure. In terms of working with people with trauma, I mean, one of
Yes,
the things,
yes.
as I dealt with my own trauma and, you know, so my early childhood was filled with trauma. Then later in my 20s, my late 20s, I was actually attacked and almost killed. So that was another acute trauma that happened. But what it did was it brought up everything else that happened. And the PTSD was really bad. I couldn't sleep. It was hard to work. I had to change the job that I had. My whole trajectory of life changed. And I remember making a deal with God, so to speak. I'm like, God, I know that your plans for us are to prosper us, and I know that you have a redemptive plan for all of our lives. I know you did not cause this in me, so help me to make sense of what's going on so that I can help other people. And so I was able to heal from that. I was able to get beyond it, get to the other side, keep my heart open, because that was one of the things I knew early on was going to make or break my life. I didn't want to turn bitter or angry or fearful, And so I started to study trauma even while I was in my PhD program. And then when I finished, I did open up my own practice, and I worked with people for about 10 to 12 years, specifically on both early childhood abuse, satanic abuse, PTSD. I worked with a few soldiers, combat trauma, which is a lot different than some of the other traumas, but it's still the same thing. And what I learned again, which was so astounding, not everybody deals with trauma the same way. Like we all could experience something. So it wasn't the trauma that caused the issue, but it's how you look at it.
It's
And
not
that's
the
when
situation.
and even really bad situations. So one of the things for me was I had to completely shift out of a victim mentality and stop seeing myself, because, it was in my DNA almost, because I grew up victimized. You're never going to amount to anything: physical, sexual, emotional abuse. And I couldn't run from that. I couldn't get enough degrees. I couldn't work hard. I worked sometimes 80 hours a week because I was running. And so as I dealt with all of that and I healed, and I helped then other people, and I was hired by the local county and city foster care system, and I worked with families and children dealing with their trauma. And very often, children, first of all, are so resilient because their minds are not completely formed yet. They're still open and learning, and they want to see things in a playful way. Like play for children is therapy.
Yes.
What they would do when bad things would happen is, if they could play, very often they would play it out. They would kind of work through it in their own way. But as we get older, our minds kind of lock in, And
Yes.
this is the way it is. This is the way it's always going to be.
Yes.
That really was an amazing experience. It was extremely rewarding because I helped people reclaim their lives, rewrite their story, see themselves differently. There weren't victims, even though these things happened to them. That didn't make them a victim. They could be victorious and see themselves beyond that small, how they may have shrunk as a result of that trauma.
Yes.
It was really good.
That's awesome. And when we think, because you and I were also talking about the fact that most adult traumas are a direct result of their childhood.
Well, the trauma might not be a direct result, but the wounds that happen are,
Yes.
like the trauma that happened to me when I was attacked and almost killed. That
Right.
was an acute trauma, but what made it even worse was it brought up and unlocked the door, the emotional door. So all those traumas from my childhood just kept tumbling out, and I
Like a
was
flood.
like a flood, and I couldn't see myself. Here I was. I had a master's degree. I already had my nursing degree. I was working my own business, but I couldn't see myself as successful. I still saw myself as that little child that was no good, could never amount to anything, could never be successful. And so there was the sabotage of either bad relationships or not going anywhere and sitting in self-pity, living in self-pity. Why is this always happening to me? Well, that's not a question you want to ask yourself. The question to ask yourself is, now that this did happen to me, what am I going to do about it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I decided I was not going to be a victim, and that turned the corner. I was not a victim. It didn't matter what happened to me because, first of all, God's word says that we are more than conquerors, and we go from victory to victory. So I was an overcomer, and I started claiming that.
And the beauty of it is people don't understand. And we're not here to try to encourage people to convert.
But I'm not discouraging it either.
Right. But I do want to say, when you've got the word inside of you, when you are going through stuff, the word is a light unto your feet and a lamp
It
unto
is.
your
It's
path.
the lifeline.
It is. It is. And you've had such successes. And we're going to talk about your books and how you moved from a nurse to working with children who had trauma and other people, adults as well, in your practice. But then you started recognizing that you were needed in the workplace. And so you have a couple of books, and let me pull this one, The Work Smart Principle. Tell us about that, Dr. Cindy.
Yeah, so as I started working with people, I realized that, the workplace can be a source of not necessarily trauma, but it can be a source of great stress. And there needed to be leaders that were inspired and were able to lead their teams in healthy ways so that people were not chewed up and spit out in the workplace. And so I shifted gears out of more traditional psychology into leadership coaching because of that reason. I really wanted to meet people where they were, and a lot of times there were workplace issues that needed to be dealt with. And so the Work Smart principle came out of the idea that while our mindset is everything, because what I realized I was doing, whether I was working with you as a leader or I was working with you in dealing with trauma, is we had to see ourselves differently and we had to think about our problems differently. So in work, what would happen is people would think about their problems more than they thought about themselves and how they could be part of the solution. So the Work Smart principle is a mindset that says, I can make a difference if I focus on what's most important, I eliminate distractions, and I stay true to my values. So it's not about being more efficient as it is about recognizing that we don't have time to put out every other person's problem. Like, don't try to fix anybody else. Just focus
Yes.
on you, see your problem as manageable because you're bigger than your problem is.
Yes.
And God is bigger than it all,
Yes.
And then stop the distractions, because distractions, ever since we, these things, they're wonderful, but hey, they're distractions. And people, 15 seconds of listening to a buzzer go off, just 15 seconds can steal 25 minutes
Oh my
of focused
goodness.
concentration. And at the end of the day, people are exhausted. They don't know what they did all day, but yet they know they were busy, but they can't remember what they did because none of it was important.
Right.
And they're not focused on their main goal.
I love it. I love it, because what we have to understand is that if we can learn how to live in the moment, that's what mindfulness is. And taking each moment, like what you said earlier about how we waste minutes focusing in on the past or focusing in on the future, neither of which is going to help you with now.
Exactly, because our past is inaccurate. Number one, we just talked about that, how, our past experience is static. It doesn't change. Even though we might have all these successes, every time we look at our past has not grown up with us. And so it's still that little girl that never did anything right, never going to get it right. So then you develop perfectionism or procrastination or self-sabotage. The future hasn't happened yet. You've got to create it. So if you see it as bad, you've just created a bad day. If you see it as good, well, that's good, but it still hasn't happened yet. So why not let it happen? Because you might create a good day when it could be a great day.
Yes. Absolutely.
So the moment is where all the action really happens. So we have to clear our mind. And so in the book, the Work Smart principle, there are lots of tools that you can use. But the most important tool is to recognize, what is the value of my time? And am I wasting time on things that won't serve me, like social media, texting, constantly looking at the phone? That's wasting time. But you can invest your time on reflection. What worked good today? How did, what do I need to take away from today that I can repeat and do over and over again? Another good thing to reflect on is, what does God mean to me? Because what God means to you is going to define how you see the world. Then, so learning to reflect is a way to invest your time. Learning a new skill is a way to invest your time. So the question is, am I investing my time or am I wasting my time? Because time, once it's gone, boom, gone.
It's
like
gone.
You can get more money, you can get more people in your life, you can get more love, you can get more food, but you cannot bring back time.
And you know what? Just think,
Yeah.
if we all focused on that and realize how precious and valuable time is. One of the questions that I ask often in my groups is, if you knew you only had 6 months to live, what would you do?
Right.
You know?
Because they should do it now.
Exactly.
Whatever the answer is.
Why not do it now? Because tomorrow is not promised to us. 6 months is not promised to us. The next hour is not promised to us.
Because until you can deal with distractions in the moment, you're not going to be able to wait until the weekend, because there's only going to be that many more distractions that are going to take you away from doing that. Just think, look at people's garages or their carports or their sheds, you know, and all the piles of stuff that exist. Those are unfinished projects, unfinished things. Maybe they bought tennis rackets, or maybe there's ping pong, or maybe they're just board games. Maybe there's whatever. All things that people were going to do and never did.
Yes.
And so one of the exercises is to make a list of all those unfinished projects and either delete them or finish them. And you actually will feel so much better, because you're no longer going to be carrying it around, because it's you're thinking about it whether you are or you aren't. It's one of those things that goes into our computer, our mental computer, and it takes up space.
Yes. I'm typing as you're talking. Get rid of them.
Yeah. So I think if you can, just the takeaway here is, what is the value of time? And specifically, what's the value of my time? Like, if you took the job that you have, your salary, and you add in your benefits. So if you get 2 weeks vacation, you have to add that to your salary. And then you divide that by the number of hours that you work. That's the hourly value of your time. So that's one way to think about it. But what are those dreams that you have? Like, if you're a parent, the value of your time is priceless.
Yeah.
Because that child, that's what they want, is they want that moment where you can look them in the eye and you can say, great job, or wonderful, or I love you. I see you as an individual, as a unique person. And I'm so glad I'm your mother or your father or your sister or your brother or your uncle. You know, you let them know how important they are. Those moments are going to be with them forever and ever and ever.
Forever. Absolutely.
So you
Absolutely.
can't put a price on that. And too many of those moments get eaten away and lost forever.
Yes. This is so good. This is absolutely so. Parents, hear what she's saying. Those of you that are working in the workplace, consider your time in the workplace. Are you walking in your purpose and your passion, or is it just a job? And if it's just a job, how is it impacting you?
And everyone around you.
Yes. A job is 1/3 of your life. And if you are in the workplace and you got all kinds of issues, one of the quotes that I shared that's so apropos for what we're talking about is by James Michener. And he says, the master in the art of living. Have you heard that quote? The master in the art of living draws no distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education or his recreation, his love or his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence through whatever it is he's doing, and leaves it to others to determine whether he's working or playing. To himself, he's always doing both. You can get that when you're walking in your purpose and you're walking in your passion.
And so purpose and passion require a quiet, still spirit. Like, they require you to be still on the inside, even if things are whirling around on the outside, so that you can tune into that still small voice that says, maybe I won't say yes to this. No, I'm not going to bake the cupcakes, or no, I'm not going to go to that event because I really want to spend time here. And if you're constantly people pleasing and saying yes to things, then you're not quiet on the inside. You're chasing. And I know that very well because I chased. In my early years, I worked hard. I kept working and I thought, oh yeah, this is good. I'm making money. I'm investing. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm going to school. I'm paying for my education. Yeah, those were all good things. But I also wasted a lot of time on those things and missed out on some relationships that were really important that I don't have now today because I was too busy. And so the trade-off becomes more poignant as we get older because we can't go back and get it again. We can't replace that.
Right.
So it's important to find that purpose. And actually purpose in the Work Smart principle, there are 5 different levers and purpose is one of them. There's clarity, knowing what is important to you, what you need to do right now. Capacity, do I have the capacity or am I so distracted by everything else? And then curiosity, can I keep asking questions? What if I did it this way instead of doing it the same way over and over? Then there's purpose, and then there's agility. How flexible can I be when life is constantly like this? And, we're in an upside down world right now.
Yes.
Totally upside down.
Yeah.
We've just been through so many things, unprecedented things. So normal is over. Normal is over. And we all have to redefine for ourselves how we want to show up and what conversations we want to have with people around us.
Yeah.
So I think that the takeaway is recognizing, like you just said, Vera, am I in sync with maybe the higher conversation for my life? Am I doing what God intended me to do on this earth? It could be raising your family. It could be being in the job that you're in because you're in that job because it allows you to care for your family and to deal with your family. So it could be that that's what it is. Just make sure that you're also not distracting yourself with other people's issues because you're trying to be everything to everybody.
Yes. And please hear this clearly. We cannot change anybody.
No.
We cannot control how people react, relate, and respond. We can only control, and I've been saying this all day, we can only control how we react, relate, and respond.
And that's why you need to be quiet and still. So you need to eliminate those distractions, make your focus your focus. If you're at home, don't do work stuff. And if you're at work, don't do home stuff. Just be at work. Just do the job. Focus on it. Get it done. Do an excellent job. Feel good about it. Then when you go home, you can be totally at home.
Yes.
Don't take your calls, don't look at those emails. Just be home. Be with your kids or give yourself some me time.
Absolutely. This is so good. This is so important. I keep saying this is so good because we are pouring into you, audience. We want you to understand, 1, your past does not define your future. 2, we don't have any control over how we may have been raised, but we have control over how we see the situation. It's not the situation, it's how we see the situation that makes all the difference in the world. And I do have another commercial. So let me play that and we will be right back. Actually, I have 2 more, but let me play this one.
Mama Knows creates high quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products, because Mama knows what you need.
First of all, they smell great. They are shampoos, conditioners, hair serums, moisturizers, and just a whole line of products to help you have healthy hair. And it's for all ethnicities. It's for boys, girls, women, and men. You want to check out mamaknowsproducts.com. Why? Because Mama knows what you need. So check it out. All right. And I do have one more that I want to play, and then we're going to give you the floor to take us out of here.
In a world where authenticity is the key, unlock your brand's potential with ADM's game-changing marketing solutions. We craft striking logos that embody your brand's spirit and build websites that captivate and convert. Our lead generation strategies are tailored to your needs, driving growth and boosting your bottom line. And our content, well, it's not just content. It's a narrative, a story that connects and resonates with your audience. But here at ADM, we're about more than just exceptional services. We're about authenticity, about staying true to who you are and what you stand for, because realness, that's what makes a brand unforgettable. So if you're ready to elevate your brand with authenticity and excellence, follow this page. Dive deeper into the world of divine marketing and become part of our community. Because at ADM, we're not just about making brands, we're about making brands matter.
You want to check out ADM, Authentic Divine Marketing, Ariel Chime. This young lady, she has a passion and a purpose, and her passion and her purpose is to help companies and organizations and consultants and coaches to elevate their marketing through authentic divine marketing. She's amazing. She's done some things for me. She's absolutely amazing. So check out Ariel Chime, Authentic Divine Marketing. And I have put her information in the comments. So check her out. All right. Now, we've got 7 minutes, roughly. So I want you to share with us some things what are some other things you want the audience to know?
So we're talking to parents primarily with children still at home. And I guess, if you think about the work smart principle, since that's the main focus, how do you really learn to work smart? We talked about the main issue has to do with how you see yourself and how you see the problem. So to summarize, it would be you have to see yourself as focusing on the most important thing in your life, not other people. Other people, even if you're a mother, you're a father, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, other people are not your most important issue. It may be part of your job. It may be part of your role. It may be part of your responsibilities, but you are the most important thing. How you see yourself. So are you recognizing what your strengths are? Do you understand what the unique value is in your family and what you do for your family? Because that will help you eliminate some of the distractions. because oftentimes our phone has to do with other people. It has to do with our friends and social media, not even friends, associates. We're more interested in what they're doing than what we're doing. So do that first. Recognize that you are the most important thing. Do I need to drink more water? Do I need to exercise? How's my diet? Should it be better? Could I eat more salads and vegetables? I know that sounds unimportant, but those are the choices that you can make that are going to give you more energy at the, end of the day. And then that will help you see your problems as manageable so that you can get out of despair or disappointment or cynicism, and you can see yourself as empowered. Because if you see your problems as too overwhelming, you're not even going to try to do anything about it. You're not going to try and grow and develop and learn and do things differently. Same thing if you see your children, for example, as being too much to handle, you're going to just let them go and do their own thing. But if you see them as a unique individual that may have special challenges, like maybe your child has a hard time focusing and you need to give some time constraints to their devices. Maybe you want to help them unplug. Maybe you want to have a technology-free zone in your family room where everybody talks to each other and just gets away from the screens for a while. Or at the dinner table, or if you're not having dinner together, maybe you're going to start having dinner together.
Yes. Even if it's just one dinner a week.
Yeah, just one meal. Yeah, one meal a week. Yeah, good.
It's important.
And so the Work Smart principle then has to do with how you see yourself, how you see your problems, how you value your time, and how you understand what your time can do, because we can't get more time. We can only get better focus. So the focus is critical. And, I highly recommend reach out to me at Dr. Cynthia Howard on LinkedIn, on Instagram or Twitter, X rather. Those are areas that you can find me. WorkSmartClubNetwork.com is my website, but that's mainly for business people. But if you have other questions about families and parenting or whatever, or how to work smart, reach out to me at Dr. Cynthia Howard. And just remember that focus is the key. Time is finite. So when you increase your focus and you look at what's most important to you, you're going to actually have more time than you thought you did. So
yes. And before we go, and also I do want to say that I do have entrepreneurs and businesses and coaches that do listen to my show as well.
Okay, good. Well, then they're going to find a lot of value in there. Yeah.
Right. Now, before we leave, I want you to kind of explain this package here that I have on the screen.
So the Work Smart Habit Journal it's a 21-day process. If you want to break a habit, whether that habit is smoking, whether it's eating certain things, whether it's exercising or not exercising, this is going to take you through a very prescribed process. It's not hard, but it does require some consistency, and it's going to help you break down why you're engaged in those habits and what you could do instead. And it helps shift your mindset in a way. I've used this with hundreds and hundreds of people. And so I put it together in a book, which is going to be a journal format. You get your own journal, which is that red book. And then you get a habit tracker, which is just a way for you to just keep track of those habits, like drinking water, sleeping a certain number of hours, exercising. Those are core habits that can make a difference in your day. Because if you're not doing those core habits, it's going to be hard to develop other habits. So it's a nice process.
Yes. So you need to be in touch with Dr. Cynthia Howard. Connect with her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and on X. Those of you that do have businesses, go to her website. And I think I got it right. Worksmartclub.com.
WorksmartClubNetwork.com.
Oh, okay. Let me put it in here
Yeah.
right. Work Smart.
That's okay. They'll find it on all these social channels.
Oh,
They'll see
okay,
it on
great.
there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So check out her channels and listen, Dr. Cynthia. It has been a pleasure having you on my show. And if you wouldn't mind waiting as we close
Of
out,
course.
then we will be right back. So hold on. So thank you all. God bless you. And we will see you on Thursday with another special guest. So join me on Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And God bless you all and enjoy the rest of your week.
The Vera